not so much divided as we are disconnected.
Paul was writing this letter because they were having all kinds of problems.
And some of the cultural forces have really pit urban and suburban against each other, have pit black against white.
It would have been a lot easier if Paul had said, hey, listen, you know what, it'd be better if all the rich people went over here and had their own church, and all the poor people went over here, and all the Gentile Christians went over here.
There has to be a sense of equity.
When you look at all the measurable indicators of what business and business growth should look like amongst people of color, despite the fact that they're doubling their education attainment over the last 20 years, the numbers are relatively flat.
A brief example I'll give you is a baseball team. And we'll say for your team, 50% of the people on that team cannot play. They might be your best, but they cannot play. And you're going through the season losing game after game after game because you only have half of a team. And so then I come in and say, okay, now you can have a full team, and I want to call it equity. But it's not, because we're already halfway through the season and your stats are garbage. They're in the gutter.
Things like redlining have led to this great chasm of opportunity.
Businesses have left, and this has happened over decades.
And so when we think about equity, it's not just about, oh, provide these services, provide these resources, and call it a day. There's more behind it, because the people in those communities are farther behind for generations with an S. So there's so much more that needs to be done than a simple, here, take this.
So I really like to think that if we actually give Black and brown business owners, and when I say that I really mean Black and brown communities, the equal access, the actual equity to the resources that are needed to actually use their talent, to pursue their passions, to build and grow businesses, that we actually then create a better Chicago.
Give us a space. Space matters, and you have to have a space to come together to build community, but out of that community comes partnership. From partnership comes economic growth and development.
If you never try anything, nothing ever will happen. That's the whole idea of working in these spaces, to encourage people to take some risk and to do a startup.
Brian's worked with my clients. Right now I run a neighborhood business development center in Bronzeville called MS Bar. The direct thing that we do is send our businesses to work with Brian to provide the supports and resources that they need to grow their business in thriving parts of the economic engine of Bronzeville.
He knows everybody who is anybody. So as a connector, he is the man for the job.
There is still a need to push. And that's one of the things that I think Brian is trying to do, trying to push the growth of minority business enterprises in this city.
I don't make excuses. I mean, I grew up in the 80s, when I played football. You got to come in condition to get trained.
You have to be hungry.
I've been just determined to make a way. I became pregnant at the age of 18.
The conditioning was your responsibility to yourself so that you can actually go into training.
Now that's a story that we hear a lot of times in neighborhoods where I'm from, getting pregnant young and getting to work.
In our society, we're too dependent upon people doing something for us. And instead of creating a culture of commerce, we create a culture of dependency.
But I always had in the back of my mind, if something would have happened to him, could I raise my boys? I had 2 sons. Could I raise them by myself?
What I did know was that I was not going to be working at Macy's for the rest of my life. I was not going to be working at Roti, picking up bags of feta cheese every day. I knew that that was not going to be my story. And I had the connections to make it so.
Brian's work matters, Mox.E's work matters, Entrenuity's work matters. It's something that is needed, that's innate, that's gonna help folks in a time where help is really, really necessary for people to survive.
It was not just for me and my own self-aggrandizement. It was to raise a generation of leaders that's what this is really about. We're only here for a blip. And it's what we do with that time, what we do with the energy that he gives us.